Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for the Marauder and the Blade Reaper subclass in Baldur's Gate 3. This is a mod that was made by KryptoHack and it previously used to be a rogue subclass. Now it's its own standalone class with two and a third subclass coming in the future. So I'll be showing off the Blade Reaper in this video here. So you get your kinetic bond, so this allows you to bind your weapon and use either dex or your strength. We're going to be obviously going around full dexterity here, and we're going to be dual wielding. That's the whole point of the Marauder. So you get the subclass feature, the Crimson Pack. When you kill an enemy, you regain 7 health points. So this is 1 plus your, or 6 plus your overall level in the Marauder. And if you're at full health points, you'll get temporary health instead. I think this is a really cool way to give yourself heals and also temporary health if you need it. Now for our ability scores, obviously going to lean into dex. Now for our ability scores, we want to have 16 dex and 16 constitution as well. However, you can also go ahead and put an extra point into here and use the Hag's Hair to take your dexterity up to 18 and then use your first feat to get it to 20. If you're not, we could just go with the stat spread of this. Now, strength is not going to be as important for us in all actuality. I think it's better to go take those points out of strength, put them into your wisdom, because with wisdom, that gives you wisdom saves, which we want to have. So you can roll with stat spread of something like that if you prefer having the higher wisdom. Now, depending on the skill proficiencies, I'd like to have acrobatics there, giving us the ability to not be shoved. And I also like persuasion if you're the face of the party. Otherwise, you can go with the expertise in stealth or sleight of hand. And into level 2, this gives us our Blood Veil Slash. This does our weapon damage plus 1d6. And it's basically like its own version of a sneak attack. This will also apply the Gaping Wounds on a failed Constitution saving throw. So that's nice, giving you extra conditions. I can also apply things like reverberation for you. Level 3 is a nice power spike, so you get the brutal efficiency when you roll 1 or 2 on a damage die for an attack with a melee weapon which is not two-handed or heavy, you reroll the damage die. It's great. And then also we get the Reaper's Favor when wielding a versatile weapon, you deal an additional 1d4 of damage. Great. And then you also get this Sanguine Strike here doing additional damage there, and you can make an additional attack with your main hand as a bonus action. So that's obviously pretty good. Gives us a big power spike in our damage at level 3. Level 4 gives us our first feat. I'd recommend it again to, if you have the Hag's Hair, take the dexterity up, and then you can go with a further increase to take up to 20. Alert for the +5 initiative is also quite nice. Dexterity just gives us attack rolls, so I think it's a little bit better at level 4. Into level 5, this gives us our extra attack, obviously another big power spike. And we get the Crimson Resistance, which allows you to reduce the damage of an attack by half. It's nice, extra survivability here, considering we can't wear a shield. You also get an extra feat at level 6, and you also get the Slip Strike. This attack lets you teleport and deal an additional damage on an enemy, which is just great, obviously. And for our next feat, this is when we can take the alert, that +5 to initiative. We can go first, get our extra attack off, and remove 2 enemies from the battlefield. That's going to be most ideal. Now, once we get to level 7, we get the Heightened Reflexes, giving us an additional reaction point. That's obviously quite nice, getting that extra reaction. Level 8 gives us another feat, and with that extra reaction, you can actually go with the Sentinel feat. So whenever an enemy within melee range attacks an ally, you can use your reaction to make a weapon attack against that ally. It's pretty nice. Then you can also get the advantage on opportunity attacks. I think this is actually a pretty good combo onto this, because this gives us the ability to stand up alongside like our fighter or even our spellcasters and be able to protect them a little bit. So that's kind of nice. I typically don't like to run Sentinel on something with like a dual wielding or not a long reaching weapon. So if you don't like the Sentinel feat, you can go with an ability score improvement to take up dex or even your constitution. Just a bit more survivability is always nice. Level 9 gives us the Unstoppable Force. Once per turn, when you reduce a target to 0 health points with a melee attack, you can move an additional 4.5 meters and take another action. Basically getting the Elixir of Bloodlust built into your class. And this movement does not proc opportunity attacks. This is pretty crazy, as you can imagine. Big power spike and damage at level 9. And we also get the Ravage here, which unleashes the full fury of the Blade Reaper on a target, dealing 11 to 14 piercing damage. Any resistance against the damage will be ignored, but this does use your action and your bonus action, so you gotta watch out for that. And we also get the Murderer's Instinct here. You gain advantage when attacks creatures with 50% or less of their health points left. Sorry, that's the wording a little. But yeah, level 10, just a flat out extra level. Unlike the Rogue, doesn't get that extra feat. We get ours at level 6. Level 11, again, nada. And then level 12 gives us our final feat. Now, this class doesn't have level 20 support, but you could take it up to level 20 if you wanted to. I guess I'll talk about some feats if you wanted to use a level 20. The tough feat, always recommended, plus 40 health, never a bad idea. You can even go ahead with the Savage Attacker. Rerolling damage die is massive. Even though we already have it reroll, it can reroll them again. Because it works similar to the other, like the Great Weapon Master. Or, yeah, the Great Weapon Fighting style. If we go with an increase to our dexterity here, this thing maxes it out. If you took the Hag's Hair, you can go with the Constitution increase. I also like to go with like the sharpshooter too, giving you some options for crossbow attacks. It's not a bad choice, especially with the arrow many targets adding all that extra damage. And I know I'm going to get questions about this, but the outfit is the Kiss of the Scourge. All right, so as far as gear goes, the haste helmet's nice, especially since early game you can get this, and it gives you additional movement speed. What's not to love? Now, you can also go ahead with some other options because we also have the ability to wear things like medium armor. So you got the Helmet Baldur in there, which gives you critical hit immunity and all that extra jazz. If you want to go pretty crazy on this build, I'd recommend actually the Steel Watcher helmet, giving you the ability to see in magical darkness. So this can go even further into the rogue kind of archetype there. There's also the Eversight ring in Act 3 that you can grab. Deathstalker Mantle, the best cloak. Otherwise, use the Cloak of Protection. Now, the Ballast Armor is almost made for this, giving yourself the additional piercing damage on attacks unless they're immune to it. This is really nice. Piercing damage being extremely powerful, and actually, if they are immune to it, it ignores that immunity as well, despite it saying it doesn't. And it gives you a bonus to initiative, so you go first. Now, you are supposed to get a dual wielding mastery feature, which unfortunately does not end up working properly. So this allows you to dual wield any weapon that does not have the heavier two-handed property and add your ability modifier to the attack. And unfortunately here, whenever I try to go ahead with doing that, so I have a versatile weapon there. Even if, no matter what weapon I use, let's say we put a dagger on, you can't use your abilities. You have to have a versatile weapon, which is kind of limited. So you got a few different longswords, which you can actually utilize that with. So there's the longswords, Fowler Alluve being a notable one. You can also use spears. Sharp Spear of the Evening actually probably ends up being the absolute best weapon in the game for this. And then you can also go with really, I guess, you can use a, what's funny enough is you could use like Mark Heschker and use a staff. So that's another option there. But yeah, you may want to take the dual wielder feat and then take Fowler Alluve and then the Blade of Oppressed Souls, or two different longswords to actually get the most out of this build. I'm going to have to do this a little differently here and take Sharp Spear of the Evening, which allows me to free up my spot here. It gives us the ability to see in magical darkness. I guess I'll put the haste helmet on there. And what's nice about this is it gives us additional damage when we're in darkness, which we also get additional damage from this being a versatile weapon. So a 1d4, a 1d6 extra. We can see in darkness. We can set up darkness. This is probably the best true weapon for a Marauder. And we also have Viconia's Walking Fortress because we can now wear a shield. Otherwise, I'd use two different weapons, but you can't put anything in the offhand with a versatile weapon without taking the dual wielder feat because the passive currently not working correctly. So we also got the +3 to initiative from the Hellrider Longbow, a Ring of Protection, the Killer Sweetheart for that free crit. Although if you want to go with something a little different, you can add in like the Caustic Band there, which is not a bad choice. The Ring of Free Movement, you can move around a little bit more without getting hit with difficult terrain. The Shadow Cloak Ring also actually, this may actually be a better choice here to add additional damage whenever we're in shadows. We want to try and play a little bit stealthy as a rogue would. So then we can actually add in both the damage riders here, giving us a 1d4 and an additional 2 damage on our attacks. You can see there, our main hand attack gets a 1d6 bonus, a 1d4 bonus, a 2 damage bonus, and a 1d6 from the Helldust gloves. I also have the Disintegrating Nightwalkers on for the free teleport there, but yeah, it's a pretty decent setup here. And we have a strength-based weapon, so you can actually use the Kinetic Bond here, and then that makes it so we can use Dexterity for it. So our weapon looks pretty cool there with that buff applied. But the first thing we want to do is set up our defensive abilities here. So we do have some really nice attacks here that do powerful amounts of damage. But the first thing we always want to do is set up our protection. So if you got an Arrow of Darkness, you can use that. With this weapon, we have the Edge of Darkness, which also adds that extra damage from the class. And we get advantage on the attack that's going to take them out. I don't need to roll the crit. Sets up our darkness here. So then we can hide out in this and we get advantage. We're also invisible too, because we can get that invisibility. We'll go with another main hand attack. I want to take out any type of spellcaster immediately. So going ahead there, 38 damage, pretty nuts. Yeah, we can also follow that up with some different attacks here. I guess the Blood Veil Slash we can do per turn, so we may as well use that. We got advantage. Cool attack animation there, taking 96 damage. That is nuts. And then we also have the Sanguine Strike here, which uses, basically we do this as a main hand attack as a bonus action. So we can just do a regular main hand attack, I guess, against this target, critically miss. And yeah, that's not ideal. But we got the Sanguine Strike here, so then we get the free attack as a, it just lets you do that free attack there. So that was a nice way to take out the target. And then we also get one more last attack. So I actually can't make it further back there. So the good old trusty Arrow of Many Targets to be able to apply a little damage in a group. Unfortunately, there's no other targets for it to chain to. That's fine. I guess we can go ahead with another one here, and we'll go with a Arrow of Acid against this target. Hopefully take them out. Yeah, that was enough to stop them. Perfect. The nice thing is Darkness too will actually mess with the enemies a little bit. They act a little bit differently. It breaks their line of sight, so they won't cast spells at you. They won't do melee attacks. They won't do ranged attacks. They'll just do throwing attacks. And for some reason, it makes them do more throwing attacks even against, like, there was no Darkness blocking her from Minsk there. And they didn't even need to do this here, but they still do for whatever reason. So yeah, Darkness is pretty strong on Baldur's Gate, but it obviously fits with a Marauder theme. It's that kept us safe. We still have our temporary health. Again, 6 plus our Marauder level, so it's 18 extra health. We also got that Blood Veil strike, so use it against a target that's got a lot of extra health, because you can see there it does upwards of 71 damage. And that's a little misleading, because it also does your double damage from the ballast armor, so the damage numbers get pretty insane. You can one-shot a lot of enemies because the ballast armor is pretty broken, especially with this weapon, which does piercing damage. And really the best thing to do is just go around stabbing them with your stick. And you can set up darkness if you need it, because it does come with a free casting of darkness you can do per turn, which is really nice. But yeah, we'll just go around stabbing folks, and the damage is insane. We're one-shotting pretty much everyone here because we get those extra damage numbers off. We ate our bonus action there, but since we took it a target, we got an extra action. Yeah, the Marauder just goes around stabbing everything to death. It's pretty fun and crazy. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed. Check out other mods by KryptoHack. They make a lot of great stuff, and we'll catch y'all in the next video.